We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
What's more important, ease of use or security?
I mean, where I work, we will make it as hard as possible.
Never mind.
Because
Did you need to ask Tim?
Not a single microbe can get in or out. Who the devil are you?
VR in AR, balancing security and convenience in the audiovisual industry, and project management for IT and AV users. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 654, recorded Friday, March 1st, 2024. Integrated Client Portal. This is AV Week, the weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to gathered together to talk about the news and information. First and foremost, we can't say where she's from, but her name's Dawn Mead, and she is awesome. How are you, ma'am?
very good, thanks. Thanks as always for having me and my very needy today puppy. So you'll see her popping in and out of frame.
Yeah, I get that. I have two teenagers. They're just as needy. Also with us is Jennifer Weaver. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And last but not least, I've known him a long time. He's not old, but an old friend, Mark Coxman from AVISPL. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. As the old joke goes, I just flew in from Dallas, and boy, are my arms tired. Thanks so much to NSCA and the group there that are putting on a fantastic BLC. Really quickly, I'll write something up about it next week. But the most important thing for me and for a lot of folks personally, Alicia Henley won the inaugural John Green Mentorship Award, and holy cow, I did not expect to get like this. Yeah,
pop.
Absolutely.
And Alicia sure as hell deserves it. So
I think that's a great legacy. I loved. John Green was always open to coming on podcasts.
Yep.
Sharing his expertise. Everybody I've spoken to just praises how great of a mentor he was to the people at Advanced AV and New Era. In fact, I interviewed somebody that used to work for him this week when I was looking for someone to fill a position here, and had nothing but great things to say about him. So Talk about somebody with a legacy, and kudos to NSCA for bringing that forward into something that provides tangible benefits for other folks as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Alicia has certainly brought other people along, just like John did as well. So, all right. First story comes to us from our old buddy Scott Tyner, higher ed superstar from Bates College. He writes about security and convenience. He wrote on the Raves Pubs podcast, obviously, or Raves Pubs website. Obviously, Mitchell will put a link to this article. The article discusses the balance between convenience and security, using the example of two-factor authentication for logging into accounts. Tyner notes that while people want security for their personal stuff, online accounts, banking, stuff like that, that need doesn't always apply to workplace systems and data. Key point in that security always involves some sort of inconvenience. So IT teams need to clearly explain security measures, listen to users' feedback on the resulting inconvenience, and collaboratively determine whether each security precaution is worthwhile based on protecting data systems versus versus impending workflows. Tyner ends the article by saying, quote unquote, yes, sometimes IT does just put up roadblocks without great reason, which is as dangerous as no security. Quick side note. I use a Mac on my personal Mac when I'm working from home. I have done so for years. At CTI, I have a company computer. It is a PC. Hanging out with our director of IT, our CTO or CIO, I was using my personal Mac. To which he goes, "Where'd you get that?" Long story short, I ended up with antivirus and some other some other security things on there, which was not inherently inconvenient, but I get the point here. Don, we're going to start with you on here. What's more important, ease of use or security?
I mean, where I work, we will make it as hard as
Okay,
possible.
never mind.
Because
Did you need to ask Tim?
yeah, I work for the military industrial complex, so even building simple open rooms can be challenging, let alone closed areas and skiffs. And I honestly think one of the hardest things for me coming from being an integrator and people pleaser to becoming a designer for this company is having to tell people no. I have to outright tell them, no, you can't have that in your skiff. No, you can't buy that in your skiff. No, it's going to cost
skiff?
4 times. Oh, sorry. Secure, compartmentalized. So it's the magic rooms where you can't bring any electronics in and
Thank
you can
you.
talk about secret. So
Okay.
if you ever watch NCIS, when they flip a switch and turn their conference room into a skiff, that's BS.
Movie magic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say no, but we have to make these decisions and we have to tell users, both internal to the company and external to the company, that's not going to fly. And in some cases, the people internal to the company are like, oh, sure, it'll fly. And the people outside the company will say, no, it will not. So, we've got a lot of levels to answer to, but security all day long. That said, I'm sitting in a house, I don't work from home too often. And when I do, I try not to do it in the room where the Alexa is because, God forbid. But it's what we do in our personal lives is not what we do at work. And it needs to be that way. And if users are wanting what they have at home, sorry, kids, you can't.
All right, Mark, security or convenience?
Well, I mean, I hate to give the "it depends" answer, but it depends, right? Like in an environment like Dawn, there's no excuse. It's secure, or it doesn't work, or it's not going to be in the building. Maybe with a financial client, like I was on the phone with earlier today, maybe with that client, there's an in between where it needs to be convenient enough for the folks that work there to be able to use it. But again, you have regulatory agencies, you have all sorts of things that are making sure you're taking what I love, the phrase "best effort" to protect your data. And that phrase is very ambiguous on purpose, and it can scare a lot of people depending on the attorneys within your company, right? What is the best effort? If you could potentially conceive that it was a liability and you didn't address it, or at least weigh it and document it in your decision-making process, then all of a sudden you could be seen to be negligent in your exploration of your security protocols, right? So I think it really does depend on the type of data and conversations going on in the building. And how sensitive those are and what those are for people. At the end of the day, though, if our communication systems aren't easy enough to use, aren't user-friendly, people won't use them and we don't get the work done. So there's always that sliding scale, of those two things. And it's our job as integrators to help people navigate what those trade-offs are, right? So,
all right. Jennifer, a slightly different question. How do we find the balance between the two, between convenience and security?
Well, you have to explain it, right? It needs to be explained to the user on why. I didn't like 2-factor authentication, but I understand it after somebody explains it. And so it goes all back to training, understanding, explanation. I'm the type of person, tell me why, just don't tell me I have to do it. Because if you tell me I have to do it and I'm forced to do it, then I'm going to be the one that's complaining. But if you tell me why I have to do it, then I might not like it, but at least I understand.
Okay, so really quickly, Jennifer, because you said something there. You're the one complaining, but I think this is Tim's opinion. Isn't it worse to not complain and find a way around as opposed to just complain?
I'm not smart enough to find a way around things. I'm not. So I'm going to go the complaining route, right?
Okay.
But there are people way smarter than me that are going to figure out how to go around. And then at that point, that's usually when something bad's going to happen, whether it's going to happen to that computer, whether it's going to happen to the organization. I mean, all of these things that have happened with organizations, if they really figure out who did it and where it came in and how it got into that organization, might be somebody that, went around what they were supposed to do. Won't be me because I can't go around it.
And there are different ways around it, right?
Yeah.
My father, who I've talked about before, is a fantastic human being. He's an old mechanical engineer, right? He was working with his hands his entire life. He and his wife have a notebook of all of their logins and passwords. that's one way around it, right? And he and I have had long conversations about his use of L Notebook. Anyhow.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on AVNation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Next story actually comes to us from AVNation. Disney upgrades their VR. Researchers at Walt Disney's Imagineering, have developed an omnidirectional treadmill floor called the HoloTile Floor that allows users to naturally walk, run, and move in any direction with any virtual reality environment. The floor comprises hundreds of individual hexagon plates that can tilt and angle to match the user's motion, creating an immersive experience that transports multiple users at once through expansive VR spaces without risk of collision. Dubbed a quote-unquote giant magic carpet by inventor Laney Smoot, the HoloTile takes VR immersion to the next level and then shows promise for location-based VR attractions at Disney's theme parks as well as creative applications in gaming and other scenarios. Mark, I'm going to start with you on this. I grabbed a hold of this through another group called Design Boom. But they did a video of this gentleman. He's been working as a Disney Imagineer for years. He's a fantastic inventor. You're looking him up. He's done a lot of stuff. But as you know, we all go to various trade shows. I've already gone to CES this year. Went to ISC, seen a lot of XR and AR, augmented reality, as well as XR production. Sony, in their booth at CES, was showing off their XR virtual production, right? This is the replacement to the green screen. So where is the place for VR inside, our area of AV?
I think there are a ton of places for community. I call them community AR VR experiences, right? Because AR from a headset with a Magic Leap or AR or Apple, Apple's new Vision Pro, those type of things are going to individual experiences. And somebody can walk around wherever they want in an individual experience. It doesn't affect anybody else, right? They have to put some guardrails around and make sure that they're not running off of walking into traffic or something. But I mean, those type of experiences are different. As far as experiences for immersive kind of environments where we're using Unreal or Unity or some of those things, real estate companies are using them to sell real estate, right? Where you go into a room and you transports you to the 25th floor on the east side, and this is what your view is going to look like when we finish this building next year. If you rent the 25th floor, and you should get in on it now before somebody else wants to take it and raise the rent, right? So we see it in places like that. We see it in factories, like digital twins of factories, simulation environments. You see it all over the place now. So as Unreal and Unity have kind of unlocked this whole content creation for cave-like theaters, for curved LED, for 270 immersive environments, all of a sudden now the things that we talked about for years are highly accessible and easier to make content for. I've always said that the problem with VR is the user interface, right? And I've joked that, I played HTC Vive when it first came out, and there's a game called Bar Fight. And if I lose Bar Fight every time, something's wrong with the game because I actually know how to fight. And I should not lose the game Bar Fight every single time, right? But in real life, you don't navigate your world by pushing your right thumb forward, and you don't turn your head by spinning your left thumb to the left. Yeah. So I can give somebody paddles to navigate a virtual world. But if let's say you're training a soldier in a military application, they've had omnidirectional treadmills for a long time, but they're single users and they don't catch up quite as well as what these tiles look like. The really cool thing about the tiles is because they are individualized, that you could have multiple users, like you said, moving at different times at different places. So now if I'm doing a virtual training for a soldier in a battlefield, instead of him pushing forward left, spinning his head right and back, and then pulling the trigger with his finger, you can hand him a rifle with an IR beam on it, put him in a 360-degree curved LED volume, and he can run for 15 minutes in one direction, jump down on the floor, and then be out of breath and have to shoot someone, right? So you can actually take training environments to a whole different level with technology like that. And so I was really excited to see it. I actually shared it a month ago myself when I saw it out there. So this was an article that was near and dear to my heart because I think unlocking the user interface is the next level of VR, AR, XR applications.
And I also point out that Mark in AVISPL's booth last year at Infocom had not the HoloTiles, right, but it had a VR that they were showing off as well, where you could envision your installation, your AV installation, with you and Julian hanging out at Infocom last year. So yeah, Jennifer, same question here: is where is the place for AR?
I think it's going to go like Mark said. You're going into government type applications. I also think it's going to be great for hospital type applications, medical type applications, to get them out. First responders, right? What is it going to happen if we've seen so much happen in the world recently, where the first responders are getting out there, but there's not actual training available to combat a forest fire. There's as much of things that you can do, but everything for a while was 2D, not 3D, and now that you can get them in there, just being able to move any which direction you want on those tiles is going to be amazing. Now, getting into the Disney aspect of it, I'm a huge Disney person. I'm a huge Disney goer. I don't know how this is going to potentially be a ride or an experience, or I think my Genie Fast Pass is going to charge me $25 to do whatever this potentially is going to be. But it could be cool. It's the next level of training out there, I think, is really where it's going to be. Now, film is going to be amazing when you get into film production, but getting into real application, I think it's going to be that training. Where do they really need training that they can't do unless they're actually in it?
All right. Don, last question on this one. What are the skill sets that we need to make this happen, to integrate XR and AR into the AV experiences?
I mean, anybody can learn the tech. There's technical resources out there. There's manufacturers out there. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to come up with is just the imagination, the creativity, the artistic thought of how to create such a thing, to use such a tool as these HoloTiles, to incorporate it with like a visionary world, and I'm so glad you asked me this question this way. And I'm so glad we talked about this story, because like Mark, I saw it a month ago and I was like blown away, excited. I'm going to go rogue here a second. The biggest thing we need is more arts. We need more arts. This is, I'm AV done now, but my undergrad, one of my degrees was in dance. As soon as I saw this video, I was like, oh my God, could you imagine doing a dance performance on that? And doing, you could do great big things on this little tiny space. And if you put little islands of it, it just blew my mind. And it came right on the heels, news-wise, of there was an article in one of the trade magazines about a group in France that did a choreographed dance called Pixels, and they had black on one side of their outfit and white on the other, and this giant 3D kind of screen that with dancers in all these little boxes, and they were doing imagery physically with their bodies. And then right after that we had the rockets and the sphere. So we're getting more and more of the technology and the arts intertwined, and it's so exciting to be part of both worlds, that if we as tech people can either expand our minds and grow in the arts, or make really good partnerships with those art people who understand enough about tech and we understand enough about their world, there's no limit. There is no limit. And I am so excited to be part of it. And I cannot wait to get on one of these floors, whether it's at a Disney ride, whether it's at a trade show. Heaven help me if it's in a dance studio. But, the intersection of technology, especially AV technology, and dance has been long-standing. And one of my first experiences in AV was in college, when they first were coming out with motion capture for dance and analyzing dance with motion. That's all our geeky stuff, and I dig it. But tie it with the art, and it'll blow everybody's minds.
I'm going to steal an old adage about the more high tech you become, the more high touch you need to be. And as AV becomes, is IT, and I'll have that conversation, that argument later with other folks. We need to make sure that we're not losing the artistic part of the AV experience, right? Yes, our ones and zeros are 100% IT, and again, we can have that conversation later. but we need to make sure we don't lose the artistic part.
I think you're 100% right, Tim. And even in applications that aren't artistic, we always have to remember that everything we do is interpreted through a subjective human being.
Yep.
Right? Like everything we put on the wall goes through the eyes and ears of a subjective human being that walks into that room. And so, we can laugh about Avixa adding the X, when they changed from Infocom and added experience and integrated experience into this. But truly, like if somebody comes in and says it doesn't sound good, no meter can tell them differently.
Nope.
They don't like the way it sounds. And that's their experience of your system. So, I know we have to meet, we want to meet 80%. We can't please everybody, but 100% we have to make sure that we're factoring the human into the systems that we design.
Right.
So,
And I mean, who in this industry doesn't know one of those audio wizards that you can walk into the room and your dials and your measurements all say it sounds great, and just something isn't there, and then the usually ponytailed older guy comes in with his magic touch and sprinkles pixie dust on it.
Come on.
But you know what I mean? The audio wizard comes in and throws his pixie dust and waves his wand, and suddenly the room is singing. I mean, that's what we need.
I was never one of those guys. I did have a ponytail, but I was not a magician. All right, last story. Jetbuilt opens up to end users. Software company Jetbuilt has announced the launch of a new web portal called Portal. I'm giving Paul a hard time here. Paul's the guy, the CEO. It's aimed at improving communication between integrators and AV users. Portal allows integrators to easily share real-time project updates. But here's the important part. As an old tech manager, drawings, manuals, MAC addresses, IP addresses, everything I used to get in a big 3-ring binder. All right? All within their centralized platform. Jetbuilt founder and CEO Paul Dexter said feedback on Portal so far has been, quote unquote, overwhelmingly positive, with users highlighting significant potential time savings through the portal. Previously, compiling all documentation at the end of a project could take hours, really? Days. No. Days and weeks. Now clients can access it instantly without extra work from integrators. Jen, start with you on this. What sort of tools do AV users and in-house integrators need to make sure a project comes off successfully?
Oh, God. You need... What don't you need?
Okay, pick 3.
Well, you need a great project manager, right? You need somebody that's going to be able to manage the project all the way through, to be able to get the information up there, whether they dictate who's going to do it, so you need a great project manager. You need somebody that's going to be the liaison to the customer, because project managers, God bless them, sometimes are not the great liaison, to the customer, because that sales rep that sold the job's doing the job, regardless of how big or small it is. They know what the customer wants, what the pain points are, all of those things. So they need to be able to get that feedback. And then, obviously a great, installation team, to be able to do it and get it done. But, when I read this, I would have loved to have had this when I was working for a manufacturer at the time, and we did a large deployment with a large school district here in South Florida, and I had to, in an Excel spreadsheet, email 10,000 serial numbers every time we installed a school.
Yep.
100 different schools and multiple serial numbers, and going through, and somebody didn't get the email, or somebody wasn't it's time consuming. And then trying to figure out how do you go back to the school to make sure there was nobody, because that one person at the school didn't get the email, so they can't verify that one lone serial number is there. So I think it's great. I think it's going to streamline, everybody's work. Is it going to give too much information at a time? Maybe.
Well, I don't think there, on this specific aspect, I don't think there is too much information. And back to your point about somebody not getting an email, I'm not kidding. I got a 3-ring binder every time that an integrate came into Lewis and Clark. And if whoever your tech manager is, if they leave, somebody's got to find out where that 3-ring binder is, right? This way, you've got one central access point.
Right.
Dawn, same question. Since you need everything. What are 3 or 4 tools you need for a successful project?
Well, I mean, everything Jennifer said is 100%, because, and notice, none of them are actually tools. They're actually people. Going back to you needing that art, that human touch. The tools are nothing if there's nobody to use them. But in this case, I think if I were looking for some kind of information or tool that would help us, something like this would be up there. I used to be the person at the integrator that had to put those stupid 3-ring binders together, or burn that CD that had early PDFs of all the spreadsheets and all the spec manuals and things. And I mean, what a pain that is. And now that I'm an end user, what a pain it is getting drawings and as-built and manuals off of people. And literally this week I've had to create 3 or 4 single page, here's how to make your room go pages for my internal customers who may or may not be the customers using the room, but somebody got to know how this stuff works. Yeah. So I think it's a brilliant idea. Its time is past due. Some of the storing of, serial numbers and those sorts of things, a lot of our RMM, our room management and monitoring systems, they have that capability. But how many people are leveraging it? How many people are using it? And how valuable? Yeah.
All right, Coxon, I'm going to ask you a dangerous question. Again, I used to be a tech manager. Dawn now is technically. Where are we at in the evolution of IT managers, AV, end users, in-house integrators being seen as equal in expertise at the AV table?
I think we're there.
You think we're there?
I think enough professionals have been recruited out of AV integration companies to run these departments that most major companies that have somebody in charge of this now have somebody that came from the industry.
Okay.
I mean, just looking at an experience center we did in San Diego, like the lead tech that built that center ended up getting hired by the center to run the AV tech within the center. That's not an uncommon story. It happens all the time, right? And this is one of the things that I thought was funny about the kickback against in-house integration. Like, they're taking our jobs. I'm like, no, they're not. They're creating new opportunities for you because you're going to go work there, right? Like, the number of jobs is the same. Somebody manages this space. There's somebody that manages this space. So whether you get a paycheck from, XYZ AV, or you get a paycheck from U of whoever, who cares? Like, your job is managing that environment, and you were now hired to go do that thing. So it's just a transfer, really. But I think enough of that transfer has started to happen. Like, if you look at folks like, Joe Way, or you look at Andre, or you look at, any of those folks that are running USC, UCLA, et cetera, these are people that came from AV. Mm-hmm. These aren't, they're not, somebody that managed, tech support tickets at Dell for 3 years at a help desk and all of a sudden got hired to build, an auditorium. Like, they're recruiting real talent. And so I think it's there. I mean, I think it's there in a lot of ways. And a lot of our partners, even in the experiential industry or in the fabrication industry or some of these other peripheral industries, are also recruiting AV people to come in. Architects with their digital experience groups are bringing in AV people. So AV people have more opportunities than ever to work across verticals, as technology is a de facto assumption in every single project. There is no project that does not involve technology anywhere, hardly anymore, unless it's, loading a truck full of oranges. But even then, there's probably some kind of inventory system, some kind of data analysis in that company, like, that's going on that makes that important. So I don't know. I don't get the infighting, honestly, between the two. Like, I think a wider field provides more opportunities for everyone, and not everyone's meant to work at an integrator or a manufacturer. Yeah. Or maybe it's not their passion. Maybe they're passionate about education, and their way to support that is to be an AV person within that organization. Or maybe they're passionate about a church, or maybe they're passionate about a mission or a nonprofit. And now all of a sudden, we're just doing a great project right now in the Southeast for kind of like a community-driven organization, talking about their heroes and talking about how you can join their mission and how you can affect the lives of youth and do all these things. And an AV person had to design all that, and maybe that's their passion, right? So I just think it's awesome time to be in AV and in technology in general, because we're no longer just stuck in a back closet somewhere working on 4 projects. We're in everything that everybody touches every single day. So
that's a great way to stop. All right, thank you all so much. Dawn Mead, they can find you. How do people connect with you?
You can find me on all the socials as either AV Dawn or Dawn Mead. And you can definitely find me at dawn@avdon.com if you need me. And eventually I will get AV Dawn's blog back up and running, but it has not happened yet. So just find me on the socials, or if you see me at a show or something, grab me and say hello.
All right. Mr. Coxon, how do people connect with you, SPL, or your fantastic writings over at Rave?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can go over to Rave Pubs. If you click on Blog Squad, you'll see my name there. You can click. I've been writing there for 11 plus years now, if you can believe it or not. There's probably 500, 600 pieces of content up there if you really want to get a deep dive into Mark's brain. I don't recommend it, but it's over there. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. Connect to me there. I'm on X as @AVPhenom. Or you can go to see what we're up to on my team, avispl.com, and it's a / and then the letters X as in X-ray, T as in Tom, G as in, I don't know, pulling G's in an airplane. XTG for Experience Technology Group.
I only know a few of the letters too, Mark. So.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how do people connect with you? And if they are so inclined, how do they connect with you to hire you?
So I am Jennifer Weaver on LinkedIn. I am I'm J Weaver 319 on X. And right now you can reach me on both of those, or you can reach me on my email at weaver.jen, JENN, @icloud.com.
All right, very good. Somebody should hire her. That's all I'm going to say about that. For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on X or LinkedIn or anything like that, but go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Brand new Architect landed about a week ago. State of Control coming down the pipeline. EdTech, of course, and our friends doing Women in AV as well. For me personally, I mentioned the fact that I just got back from NSCA's BLC, really, really great conference for the business side of the industry. In March, you can catch me in Orlando for 2 weeks. Not quite Jennifer's neighborhood, but close. I'll be hanging out with the folks at Crestron Masters, as well as Modern Work Summit. And the very next week, going back to Orlando for Enterprise Connect, and then NAB, and then Qualcomm will be here before we know it. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.